What's good, everybody? It's your girl Amanda Denise, and I'm back with another video. Today's video will be discussing mental illness and its effect on the African American community. When it comes to mental illness, African Americans are no different when compared to the rest of the population as far as prevalence of mental health. However, our concerns or experiences and how we understand and cope with these conditions may be a little bit different. Historically, communities of color experience considerable challenges in assessing health services. Let's take a look at some numbers to get us started. 13.2% of the population identifies as Black or African American. Of that and that's well over 6.8 million people. Of that 6.8 million people, 16% had a diagnosable mental illness in the past year. So that means that only maybe not even a quarter of the 6.8 million people are seeking treatment. So this is going to discuss kind of why that is and how it impacts us and what we can do to change it. So why does mental health matter? I know it's a big stigma in our community, but I'm trying to help express and teach knowledge and give knowledge as far as why it exists. Yes, it's real, and yes, we can fix it together. So why does mental health matter? Without mental health, we cannot be healthy. As any part of the body, including the brain, it can get sick. Of course, we all experience some type of ups and downs over the span of our life. However, mental health conditions go beyond these emotional reactions to specific situations. There are medical conditions that causes changes in how we think and feel in our mood. Without proper treatment, mental health conditions can worsen, causing day-to-day functionality to become even more difficult to handle. From experience, and that's how I was before I was diagnosed with bipolar, type 2 depression, and anxiety, as well as PTSD, I was going untreated. And because I went untreated, I became manic. And in the mania, I did things that to this day I regret, but I've had to forgive myself because I knew that it was a sickness and I should have gotten treatment for that sickness. But I didn't. But that's neither here nor there. I got treatment. I'm doing a whole lot better than what I was doing. But I kind of wanted to just throw that out there because I've experienced having unmet needs or having untreatable illnesses or untreated illnesses, not untreatable, but untreated illnesses. There are medical conditions that causes changes in how we think and feel in our mood. So how does mental health conditions impact the African American community? Well, although anyone can develop a mental health problem, African Americans sometimes experience more severe forms of mental health conditions due to unmet needs, just like I was saying, and barriers. Now, I did a lot of research on this topic, so I have my notes here if you see me looking down a little bit, but those are the two main things: unmet needs, not seeking treatment, and other barriers, and we'll discuss those later as well. So African Americans are not special when it comes to mental health. We actually get more severe types of mental health disease or mental health illnesses. According to the Health and Human Services Office of Minority Health, African Americans are 30% more likely to experience mental health issues than the general population. Common disorders among African Americans include bipolar disorder, depression, chronic depression, ADHD, suicide among young Black men, and PTSD because African Americans are more than likely to be victims of trauma or crime. So here are some issues to consider. Different different reasons prevent African Americans from seeking treatment and receiving quality care. Here are some of the biggest barriers. Lack of information and misunderstanding about mental health. That is the absolute biggest issue that we're having when it comes to mental health education. In the African American community, many people misunderstand what a mental health condition is and prefers not to talk about the topic. This lack of knowledge leads many to believe that the mental health condition is a personal weakness or some type of punishment from God, which is not true. It's an emotional and hormonal imbalance. African Americans can be reluctant to discuss mental health issues and seek treatment because of the shame and stigma surrounding the illness. And that's what we're trying to get rid of, is the shame and the stigma. You're going to continue to get worse if you don't seek the help that you need. Many African Americans also have trouble recognizing the signs and symptoms of mental health conditions, leading to underestimating the effects and impacts this could cause on your life. So for so long, I ignored the signs and the symptoms that something was really going on with me. I've always suffered from depression, going all the way back to high school. However, I do believe that I also suffered from bipolar disorder from a very young age. And I say that because when I look back at some of the manic episodes, the violent episodes, the chronic depression, the mania, things that I would do to cope and to fill a void that wasn't there. So I guess in a sense, I ignored the signs and symptoms, and then my family ignored the signs and symptoms for a very long time as well. And they still do. And that's fine. But I myself took it upon myself to go seek the treatment that I needed. Let's see, because of the lack of information about mental health issues, it is not always clear where to find help when you may need it. Don't allow your fear of what others may think prevent you from getting better, or a loved one from getting better. 1 in 5 people is affected by mental illness. 1 in 5. 1 in 5 people. That's a lot of people. This means that even if we don't talk about it, most likely we have one of the illnesses, or we know someone that does. So another reason or a barrier that causes a stigma in the African American community surrounding mental illness is reluctance and inability to access mental health service. 1/4 of African Americans seek mental health compared to 40% of Caucasians. So here's some reasons why. Distrust and misdiagnoses. Historically, African Americans have been and continue to be negatively impacted by prejudice and discrimination in the healthcare system. Misdiagnoses, inadequate treatment, and lack of cultural competence by healthcare professionals cause distrust and prevent many African Americans from seeking or staying in treatment. Provider bias and inequality of care. Conscious or unconscious bias from providers and lack of cultural competence results in misdiagnosed and poor quality care for African Americans. African Americans, especially women, and I've experienced this. I've gone through, I would say at least 4 to 5 doctors. 4 to 5 doctors because they were culturally incompetent. African Americans, especially women, are more likely to experience and mention physical symptoms related to mental health problems. For example, You may describe bodily aches, which comes with depression. It comes with bipolar disorder. You may describe body aches and pains when talking about depression. A healthcare professional who is not culturally competent may not recognize these as symptoms of a mental health condition. Additionally, men are more likely to receive a misdiagnosis of schizophrenia when expressing symptoms related to mood disorders or PTSD. Given this bias and the negative impact they have on our care, it is easy to understand why so many African Americans mistrust the healthcare system and healthcare professionals in general and avoid accessing care or assessing care. While you have a reason to doubt whether professionals will mistreat you or not, don't let this fear prevent you from seeking care. There are doctors out there that will take on your case and that they will help you. Um, they are socially competent. They will know what you need and what you mean, and it just takes time in finding the right doctor. The section that I'm about to go over is about finding the right type of provider for you. Now, there are several types of different providers, and I'll go over a few of those. There are psychiatrists, psychologists, there are therapists, life coaches, counselors, and just to name a few. Culture, which is a person's belief, norms, values, or language, plays a key role in every aspect of our lives, including our mental health. Cultural competence is a doctor's ability to recognize and understand the role culture, yours and the doctor's, plays in treatment and to adapt this reality to meet your needs. Unfortunately, research has shown that lack of cultural competence in mental health care. This results in misdiagnoses and inadequate treatment. African Americans and other multicultural communities tend to receive poor quality care. Did you hear that? We're still subject to discrimination and provider bias in the mental health community, in the African American community, period, right? So you can improve your odds of getting culturally sensitive care. Now, while I recommend that you go directly to a mental health care professional because this is their area of expertise, if you don't feel comfortable right away, start with your primary care doctor. This is a great place to start. The primary care doctor might be able to start the assessment to determine if you have a mental health condition or help refer you to mental health professionals. These assessments can be done by physicians. They can be done by psychologists. They can be done by psychiatrists. However, the important part is getting the assessment done to see if you actually do have a mental illness or could have a mental illness. Unfortunately, while you may prefer finding an African American mental health professional, this is not often possible because there are a small percentage of African American providers. The good news is, however, that professionals are increasingly required to learn how to effectively treat from all diverse backgrounds. However, as mentioned before, many providers still lack cultural competence and do not know how to effectively treat African Americans. So, when meeting with your provider, ask questions to get a sense of their level of cultural sensitivity. Do not feel bad about asking the questions. This is your life, your well-being here. Providers expect and welcome questions from their patients. If you have a good doctor, they will respect your need to ask questions. If your doctor starts off telling you what's wrong with you and they haven't even begun the first question, then that's a problem. That's the doctor that you don't want. You want a doctor that respects your input. You want to be a partner in your care. You don't want somebody doing the care for you. You want a partner in your care, right? And your questions give the doctor and healthcare professional team important information about you, such as your main healthcare concerns. here are some questions that you can ask. And I actually asked a couple of these questions. It's like an interview. When you're finding the right doctor, it is like an interview. It's like a job search, an employee search. Finding the right person that meshes well with your needs. Have you treated other African Americans? Have you received training in cultural competence or on African American mental health? That's important because, as I stated earlier, we are more than likely to experience more severe types of mental illness as opposed to other areas of the population, um, because we're more susceptible to violent crimes, trauma, suicide among young men. There's a lot that we are more susceptible to. Not saying or trying to dismiss the other cultures and other ethnicities, but tonight I'm focusing on the African American community. How do you plan to integrate my beliefs and practices into your treatment? That is such an important factor. And I say that because if you're into faith and religion and Christianity, prayer, if you're very spiritual, this could play a very big part in your treatment plan. So make sure you let the doctor know up front, hey, look, this is what I do. I meditate, I pray, I worship. This is my life. How can we incorporate that into the actual treatment plan? So your mental health provider plays an important role in your treatment. So make sure you can work with this person and communicate well together. That's the most important part. Because I got my doctor's cell phone number. If I need him, I call him. I text him. Hey, look, doctor, I'm out of my meds. Can you send me something in? Look, doctor, I'm not well today. I need to get in and see you. Can you see me today? So, like, you need a doctor that meshes well with your treatment. Mention your beliefs, your values, your cultural characteristics. Make sure that he or she understands them so that they can be considered in the course of your treatment. Like I said, if you're spiritual, if you're spiritual, make sure that's a part of your treatment, because they can teach you more about guided meditation. If finances are preventing you from finding help, you can find a local or mental health clinic or your local government to see what services are right for you. So I know for a fact that there's one in Columbus, Georgia. It's the Bradley Center, and they do take walk-ins if you don't have insurance, and they will get you on medication until you're able to actually see a doctor. They do the assessment, they diagnose you there, and they're very thorough from what I know, because I had to go to them once while I was in between doctors. So you can find contact information if you need to find treatment. You can go to, and I'll put that in the description box and tag it in the video. It is findtreatment.samhsa.gov, or by calling the National Treatment Referral Hotline at 800-662-HELP. So I did a lot of research. The majority of the research that I did for this video came from NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness. They are a well-known organization. My husband did their website, and that's how I found out about them. And I met with this lovely young lady that was a part of NAMI. She met with me, and we sat down and we talked, and she told me things that I needed to do to help along in my journey, and she was very helpful to me. So NAMI has been a great part of my research, and where I'm getting a lot of the statistics from, a lot of the information from, a lot of the education from, and it's all posted by certified healthcare professionals. And listen, I just want to say this before I close out the video. Anyone can develop a mental health problem. It isn't your fault. It isn't your family's fault. It isn't anyone's fault. But seeking treatment, being honest with yourself about your condition, and seeking treatment can help you live a fulfilled life and strengthen you and your family for the future. So, do you want to be the best you can be for your family and your future? That's very important to me, and that's why I chose to seek help. So, it's important that you continue to seek help, be honest with yourself, and continue to heal. So that's my tidbit for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this informative video. If you have any questions, leave them below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace and love and all that good stuff. You guys have a great night. Peace.